Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be going over each and every quest in polar opposites, and I'm going to be kind of like marking my comments on easier paths, which ones are difficult, which ones are more easy, which ones you should focus on when you're just running for initial completion, so on and so forth. So we're going to start with obviously quest number 1 in chapter 1. So if we're going to jump in there, we're going to see that we only have 3 paths total, so that is a very small number of paths. And here you kind of have 2 options. The easiest path champion wise is definitely going to be the one on the left. If you have bleed immune champions you can bring in here, you're going to have fairly easy time, because like there's pretty much wasp only, slightly tricky fight, and the rest of the fights are fairly basic, straightforward, easy, nothing to worry about. If you do not have kind of like good bleed immune champions, then you probably want to take path to the right, and that has transducer and limber, so there's nothing too horrible in this one. But you have to face kind of like Thing, Green Goblin and Punisher and Killmonger, so you do need to plan for those, because those are definitely harder fights than Abomination, Red Hulk, Groot and Scarlet Witch. So the fights themselves are going to be a bit harder on the right side, which is the one you might have to take if you do not have good bleed immune champions. The path in the middle is definitely going to be the trickiest one, because Cable, Korg, MODOK, Ultron are all annoying opponents, and plus heal reversal is going to chip away at your health extremely quickly unless you're like using robots or Ghost, for instance. Because if you have willpower on, that Spectre debuff itself counts as a debuff, so it's going to trigger willpower heal and you're going to be degening in every single fight. So that is kind of the most annoying bit in here. So now I did make a small mistake. Let me just quickly exit this quest and let's move on to quest number 2. So quest number 2 in chapter 1, it's also nothing too difficult. It was worth mentioning that the White Magneto boss is probably one of the more annoying bosses. You do not need specific counter to him, but it is not the easiest fight, and you just need to find a way how to weave in your heavy attacks. Now, we are in quest number 2 then, and the easier path in here are definitely the 2 ones on the left side. You can pick whichever one you want. Enhanced abilities, Force of Will, Martial Mastery, so there's nothing really kind of difficult there or preventing you from using any specific champions. You just need to be careful not to get hit in order not to get stunned and comboed into oblivion. And the only kind of tricky fights on here really is Miles Morales, which isn't too bad because he doesn't have limber on, so you can just parry stun him and chip away at him. And then obviously you need to be careful of Gladiator Hulk Smash. Aside from that, it's fairly easy road there. And also the aggression cruelty aspect of illusion path isn't too bad. There's only one annoying opponent, which is Void, and the rest of the fights are fairly easy. Now you have Hyperion path, which is all or nothing improved power gain, which is something a lot trickier compared to first 2, so you will need some specific counters, and it is one of the more difficult parts in this quest. And now on the right side you have combo lock and counter tactics, and this is probably the hardest path because the block damage you're going to end up taking there is going to be huge as the fight goes on. And obviously Electro and Nihilus, OG Spider-Man are not really the easiest opponents to fight against, so the right 2 paths on the right side is something you probably should leave for later when you're pushing for 100% exploration. The boss itself isn't hard. There's nothing kind of like too difficult about that Magneto, just basically don't get hit kind of thing, because he will have like a massive block penetration there. So let's jump into chapter 2, quest number 1. So in quest number 1 you have first and foremost Aggression Fury. Now by now everybody should know that you can choose Aggression Fury using your Heimdall and Electro or Killmonger. So even if you have 3-star Electro and 3-star Heimdall, you're perfectly fine to go in here and walk through this path with relative ease, and that is definitely worth mentioning. And then if you just want to clear this path regularly, either one or the paths on the left side aren't difficult. I'd say that this Enhanced Bleed Debilitate path is probably the easiest one, because there aren't any kind of hard fights at all on it whatsoever, especially now that Namor's bug has been like fixed. It's still kind of a bit buggy when you're using Ghost against Namor, but for most part it's fine. And the Fisticuffs path is also it's fairly easy. There's nothing too tricky on it. Fisticuffs is a bit annoying because you can't parry stun opponents for the initial first 30 seconds, but other than that, there's nothing too difficult on this path, and there's like Gladiator Hulk and Sentinel, and that's about it from the kind of more difficult fight. So you can pick either one of the two on the left side. I personally go for the Venom one, or you go and choose the Aggression Fury path. So now let's jump in the next quest. Oh, and Wolverine boss. Wolverine boss is also fairly easy. He is unblockable if he's under regen effect, and that's about it. There's nothing kind of much to him. You don't need any specific counters. And that is a very kind of big thing for this variant, because all the bosses are relatively kind of easy and definitely manageable. Like Kang is probably the most specific one, but other than that, any champion works on them. But yeah, so we're in 2.2 now, and here if we're moving for the easier path, we have enhanced abilities, enhanced bleed, enhanced crits. This is definitely the easiest path if you do not mind fighting Domino. And the second easiest path here would be Plague Mind. Plague Mind is annoying, but it's nothing kind of like you can't get over it. You can just not use your specials, and the fights there are fairly easy as well. The only bit there is kind of Dormammu, that is going to be the trickiest fight. So in this quest you kind of have to choose in between which is going to be your poison, whether it's going to be Domino or whether it's going to be Dormammu, depending which one you feel more comfortable up against. That is the path you should take. And the two paths on the right side are definitely way harder than the ones on the left. So Biohazard with Korg, with Thing, with Iceman, Morningstar, it's not a good time for anybody. And the path on the far right is again Spite and improved power gain. That is also something specific you do need to counter specifically. So definitely stick to either one of the left path in this quest. And now let's jump in chapter 3 and Colossus quest. Now Colossus boss is like the only boss that needs specific requirement, and you do need like a bleed immune champion or a ghost, because ghost can cheese that boss. But yeah, you will want somebody bleed immune to fight against Colossus boss. Now when we go here, Hurt Locker on the far left is going to be the easiest path, definitely, because there aren't too many kind of tricky fights. Medusa can be slightly annoying, but as long as you can parry stun Medusa, you perfectly find that fight becomes easy. And same goes with Spider-Gwen. Spider-Gwen can be annoying, but you can just parry stun her and hit her while she's under stun if you don't have like specific counters to her. So other than that, this is definitely the way to go. Now if you can take a look at the rest of the path, special one bias and enhanced special one, it doesn't sound too bad, but when you check out that there is Mysterio, Darkhawk on it, those are fairly tricky fights compared to the ones on the path number 1. Now it isn't hard path, but still Darkhawk and Mysterio can definitely be annoying opponents, and I would pick the far left one with Hurt Locker over this one. And now the two middle path, the Spry path, Spry and Gas path, can't touch this. It's again one of the more annoying paths because, well, A, it's bugged and you can still get fatigue while they're stunned, at least last I checked. And yeah, there are some harder opponents on there. You have the Nightcrawler there, Stealth Spidey, Wasp, Spidey, so they are not easy opponents by any means, and this is definitely harder. And now there's also the Rapid Metabolism 3, when defenders shrug off all debuffs 80% faster. It isn't particularly difficult node, but some of the fights here can definitely be really annoying. Like you have Punisher and you have the Rogue, which most kind of like many people struggle with the Rogue. So yeah, if you're just pushing for completion, I go with path number 1 for sure. Path number 2 isn't too bad either, but I definitely leave the two paths on the right side for when you are committed to 100% explosive quest, because they will be a lot more difficult. And now we have the last quest, 3.2 with Kang boss. Now Kang boss, obviously you do have to take in a specific counter to. You need some Incinerate champions, or you need some Shock champions, or you need something like Warlock or something else that is able to counter that heal. But when it comes to actually taking the easiest path, I do think that the easiest path is Combo Party on the far right side, because this node actually helps you increase your damage output. So long as you do not get hit yourself, you will end up hitting harder than you normally do, and the opponents on there aren't difficult either. It's Venom, Venom the Duck, Magic, Scarlet Witch, and Mysterio. Now Magic and Mysterio aren't the easiest opponents, but they're not like too bad overall as well, especially while your damage output's kind of increased. So long as you bring counters to those, you will be perfectly fine, and that also means you do not have to fight that annoying Havoc there. Now, if we quickly take a look at the rest of the path, recharge, defensive, all or nothing, power shield node. You can kind of cheese this one with a few different champions, but overall still not kind of like the easiest time going about. And you have explosive personality. But when you take explosive personality, the node itself isn't bad at all whatsoever. However, the champions on it, which is like Killmonger and Iron Man Infinity War and Asable Colossus, I think are a bit harder than the ones that are on the far right side. Now this path, which goes with long distance relationship, would be a really easy path if not for this void, and this void is kind of like really cheeky placement, because as you keep fighting you're gonna get those weakness debuffs on you, and as soon as you get that weakness debuff on you, void starts dealing the generation damage to you. So there aren't too many great counters to this void, and typically this fight will cost you some like potions or units unless you have like specific counter to him. Like for instance, Ghost with Hood synergy can deal with this fight very well, and there are a few other ones, but still it's not the easiest fight you kind of want to jump into without preparation. And enhanced armor break, enhanced armor up, crumbling armor. This path itself again wouldn't be too bad, the rest of it is easy, but that Havoc can be quite annoying. So once again, I still recommend sticking to the far right path. I do believe that to be the easiest one. And yeah, Kang Boss, you definitely need to have a solid game plan. You can either out damage him somehow in 20 seconds by using Star-Lord or She-Hulk or something, or you can run Sentinel and make sure he's constantly under Incinerate and Shock, or some other Incinerate and Shock champions. And Warlock is able to also heal block him. But yeah, you do need a game plan for that. Aside from that, I do think this is probably the easiest variant we have seen to date. It's also shorter than the rest of them because the maps do not have too many paths, and there is one less quest in each chapter, so it is considerably shorter than the previous variants, and I do like it. I did really enjoy playing here. But anyways, I hope today's video is going to be useful to some of you guys. If it is, do not forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. Laters.